Guess what? Despite what you've been told, love is not the highest emanation of spirituality. Who am I to say such a thing? I'm Kadrick Olson, author of Runes for Transformation and founder of Galdercraft. For the past 30 years, I've been studying Norse mysticism and the runes, so I can bring forward into the 21st century the wisdom and the teachings of these ancient rune masters, so that you can have magic and transformation throughout your life. Now, it may be kind of an appalling claim, because we've been told for our entire lives that God is love, the universe is love, you need to find love within, love unites all, love is the power that binds all things together. We've been told so much about love, and that the power of love can heal all things. But I want to try to convince you that maybe that's not exactly true. And some of you may already feel that. We already look at love, and yes, it feels good, it feels wonderful, and it can also be a tool of manipulation. There are some negative sides to love. But to understand what I mean about love is not the highest form of spirituality, I want to take a look at our brain. I do draw a correlation between our physical presence with our spiritual being. What goes on in the physical goes on in the spiritual, and what happens in the spiritual happens in the physical. There is a dynamic, dichotomous relationship between the physical and the spiritual. I do not hold any truth to the strange notion that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We are composite beings made up of the physical and the spiritual, and as composite beings, as this complex entity, we need to learn how to work with both of those. And so to understand the nature of the human mind and how it's reflected in the nature of the soul, I'm going to explore Norse lore and what the lore tells us about the human soul complex. And I'm going to pair that up one-to-one with parts of our brain. The first part we're going to take a look at is the brainstem and the cerebellum. Now, these parts of the brain are typically associated with our reptile mind. This is our basic need to the 4Fs, you know. This is fight or flight to protect yourselves. This is feed, so that you can get the nourishment that you need. And this is fuck, to be able to reproduce, to create more of you. This is the most basic part of the brain, like we said, the reptilian brain. This is one of the oldest parts of complex life on our planet. You know, the reptiles, the amphibians, fish, all have this basic part of the brain. And so this is your instinct for survival. This is your ability to move. And there are some studies that show us that the cerebellum also is not only related to motor control, but our ability to physically communicate. So again, this is the root of your brain. This is the essence of life in your body. And maybe this is reflected in the part of the soul, maybe the other, the part that drives you, the part that moves you, keeps you going. The next part of the brain we're going to look at is the limbic system. Now, the limbic system seems to have come into development with mammalian beings. And what's unique about mammals is the herd. They tend to come together, they group together for survival. And an essential part of that survival is the caring, the nurturing, the protecting, really, is what is identified as us as a group. How do we care? How do we protect? And so the limbic system is really what gives us our emotions. This is where you will have those happy, feel-good emotions come from. This is where love, the sense of security, the sense of belonging, that sense of nurturing, compassion, come from the limbic system, which may be considered the lower mammalian brain. We find this within all of these species that group together, from, you know, cows and penguins that really clump together, to even, yes, human tribes. The core of human tribes comes from the limbic system. And limbic system is where you're going to find love. Love is created here, neurochemically speaking, right? Not the energy. Maybe there's an energy one-to-one correlate. But here in the limbic system is where we're going to find love. And this was essential for mammalian species to survive, is to have this sense of love, towards each other. Now notice where we are in the brain. We're only halfway through. We're just one step above the brainstem, and you're already feeling love. Believe me, the limbic system is very important. It's also attached to the visceral nervous system. From the vagus nerve down from the brain, along your esophagus into your gut. And when you have that gut feeling, that instinct that something's right or something's wrong, this is the oldest part of your brain, the biggest part of your brain. Yes, the limbic system in your gut is the oldest and biggest part of your brain, telling you what's right or wrong. This is instinct. This is maybe that psychic little notion of what's going on comes from this part of your brain, the limbic system, where love is created. And so this may be why a lot of people connect love and higher level spirituality, is because it has that intuition, that instinct that goes along with the limbic system, that is connected with love, that is connected to the subconscious, that is connected to memory. So the limbic system, we will correlate with the mini. The Norse would call this part the mini. It's related to Odin's raven Mugen, that deals with memory, with emotion, with the subconscious, with the unconscious. This is all limbic system. Now, moving on from the limbic system, we get to the upper mammalian brain, known as the cerebral cortex. This is all the wrinkly gray matter that you see when you see pictures of a brain or other images of a brain. It's this wrinkly stuff. The more wrinkles you have, supposedly, the more intelligent. So be it. We're not going to go into that here. The cerebral cortex is the part of your brain that helps you to organize information. It is part of that patterns. How do this information connect? What do these things go together? It is the part of you that understands communication, the part of your brain that does mathematics. This is the part of you that is conscious and aware. This is your beta state. This is wide awake, alert, here, present in the moment, able to communicate, able to understand. This is the cerebral cortex. Now, this is found in other primates, like monkeys, the great apes. This is found in cetaceans, like dolphins and whales, cats, dogs, the canines, the felines, elephants. All of these species, yes, they have the limbic system, so they connect to each other emotionally. Dogs and cats have emotions. We all know this. But the fact that they can, when you call a cat or a dog by their name, they can understand it, they respond to it. That's the cerebral cortex connecting. That is understanding this information and how it connects to them. There's this, even if it's rudimentary, there is an organization of information going on with felines, canines, all sorts of primates because of the cerebral cortex. So that relates spiritually in the soul complex to what the Norse called the Huger, related to Odin's raven Hugin. This is the conscious mind. This is your awareness. This is the part of your spiritual being that can communicate in words, in pictures, in an orderly, processed fashion. Now, there is a part of your brain that is unique to humans, and it does something that has not been detected in other animal species. I'm going to be conservative with my statement that way. And that's right up here in the front, with the prefrontal cortex. And what does the prefrontal cortex do? It does a lot of very interesting things. It will help you to regulate emotions. So say you are going to a horror movie and a particular scene startles you. So you jump in your seat and you scream, and then you stop and you laugh. That changing of emotion from fear to laughter, from startle to humor, is the prefrontal cortex saying, hey, wait a minute, there's nothing really dangerous here. This is funny. Laugh about it. The prefrontal cortex also gives meaning and purpose to things, where the cerebral cortex can really outline things and organize information. The prefrontal is the part that says, here's what that information really means, and here's what the purpose of that is. One of the most powerful things that the prefrontal cortex does is it lets you plan things in advance, in detail, without really doing it in the first place. It's like your virtual reality within your brain. You can think of this as an Olympic gymnast. Before she hits the mat to do her routine, she goes into a somewhat of a meditative state, and an alpha state, while she's sitting on the bench waiting. And she goes through her routine in exquisite detail in her mind before she actually does it on the mat. That's one of the strongest things that your prefrontal cortex can do that has not been detected in any other animal out there. And another thing that the prefrontal cortex does is it helps give you an understanding of cause and effect. What happened, what's going to happen next, what's happening now, what's coming up next, right? This is really how things are connected. This gives you a rudimentary understanding of how things are temporally connected, how things are connected in time. Now, I say rudimentarily is because if we think back to the visceral nervous system, this really dates back old. This is the oldest part of your brain. So trusting your gut instincts, your intuition, is a very good thing because it is an old part of you that has learned very well. This is a new part of you, very new. And so our understanding of cause and effect, of causal chains, and the meaning and purpose of things is just starting. This is signs of a new evolution of human. The more you are able to understand cause and effect and causal chains, the more you give meaning and purpose to things, the more you're able to enter into flow states, to have feelings of awe and wonder and awesomeness, this amazed feeling, all come from the prefrontal cortex. This is a new part of your being. This represents a new evolution of human. And that also represents a higher state of being. The Norse did have a term, a spiritual term for this part of your being. They called it the Homingya. Roughly translated, it's the repositor of luck. And it can be programmed, we'll do this later, it can be programmed to bring good situations to your life and the right people, the right things, right action, right deeds reflected back onto you by work of the Homingya and by work of the prefrontal cortex. So to sum up, love is a very powerful emotion, but it can be very dangerous too. A lot of religions and a lot of organizations and people will use love to manipulate you into doing what they want you to do for their benefit. By using your prefrontal cortex, by using your advanced human capabilities, you are able to see the manipulation of what that love is doing to you, what the meaning and the purpose is that this love is being projected onto you, what it is that they're trying to tell you you should be doing, and you can project causally what it is, the outcome of they're trying to do, what the cause is, what the intended effects are, and say, wait a minute, do I want to be a part of that? Maybe you do. Maybe you do want to join up with that and say, hey, I want to follow along with this. Or maybe you say, no, that is not in my best interest. I see how it's in the best interest for you, but in my best interest, it is over here. Again, regulation of emotion. Someone's trying to project that love onto you, make you feel loved, make you feel welcome, make you feel belonged. That's great. That's fine. That's wonderful. And if it's in your best interest and your prefrontal cortex can see the causality play out and say that it really is for you, then go for it. But this prefrontal cortex will also say, hey, wait a minute, Bob. I see what you're trying to pull here. Yeah, the love and the happiness all feels good. That sense of belonging feels good. But what you're doing is not right for me. So I am going to confidently and competently choose a new route for myself, one that works for me. So again, love, not the highest level of vibration, understanding causality. That's the next evolution of human spirit. Hail to you, and I hope that you use this knowledge and wisdom well. Thank you. Hey, I just want to pop in here real quick to say thank you for watching this video. If you found it useful, please click the thumbs up and subscribe. I'm going to be making a whole lot more of these videos, so please leave me a comment on the things that you would like to learn more about, especially the stuff concerning runes, Norse mysticism, ascension, spiritual practices, and that kind of stuff. Plus, if you want to dig deeper into Galder workings, runes, magic, all that kind of stuff, click the link in the description for my website where you can find music for rituals, the book I've written, and a whole lot more stuff. I've got a lot more coming soon, so sign up for the email so you can stay in the loop on the stuff I'm bringing to you now. Thanks, and hail to you all.